There is a strange pattern you start to notice when you study people who quietly build real wealth. They do not chase money. Money seems to follow them. At first, that sounds like one of those vague ideas that feels good but does not actually help. When you really understand how certain individuals think, you realize there is a very specific rule behind it, and few people have explained it more clearly than Naval Ravikant. His wealth rule is not complicated. It does not rely on secret strategies or hidden systems. In fact, it is so simple that most people ignore it completely. But if you actually understand it and apply it, it can change everything about how you approach money in 2026 and beyond. The rule is this: seek wealth, not money or status. That sounds subtle, but it is a complete shift in thinking. Because most people are not actually seeking wealth. They are seeking money, or worse, they are seeking status, and those three things are not the same. Money is what you earn. Status is how others see you. Wealth is what works for you when you are not working. That difference changes everything. Because if you are focused on money, you will focus on earning. If you are focused on status, you will focus on appearance. But if you are focused on wealth, you will focus on building assets. And assets behave differently. They grow. They compound. They continue working even when you stop. Now here is where things get interesting. After some time, you need to ask yourself a question that most people avoid. Are you building something that lasts? Or are you just earning temporarily? Because earning stops the moment you stop working. That is the harsh reality. You can have a high-paying job, a strong income, even a successful business, but if everything depends on your constant effort, you are still trading time for money. And time is limited. Naval Ravikant emphasizes leverage. Not the risky kind that involves debt, but the powerful kind that allows you to multiply your output without multiplying your effort. There are three main forms of leverage he talks about: labor, capital, and code or media. Labor means people working for you. Capital means money working for you. Code and media mean products that can scale without your direct involvement. And this is where the modern world has created a massive opportunity, because for the first time in history, individuals have access to leverage at a global scale. You can write something once and reach millions. You can create a product once and sell it infinitely. You can build systems that operate while you sleep. But here is the problem. Most people are still thinking in old ways. They are focused on hourly work. They are focused on effort instead of outcomes. They are focused on doing more instead of building smarter. And that is exactly what keeps them stuck. Naval Ravikant rule forces you to rethink everything. Instead of asking, how can I make more money? You start asking, how can I create something that earns even when I am not working? That shift alone changes your direction. Now let us go deeper. Because this rule is not just about building assets. It is about ownership. Naval repeatedly emphasizes that you need to own equity in what you do, not just earn from it. Ownership is where wealth is created, not wages. When you own something, you benefit from its growth. When you do not, you are simply being paid for your time. And while that can provide stability, it rarely creates significant wealth. Think about the biggest success stories in the modern world. Founders, investors, creators. They own a piece of what they build. And as that thing grows, their wealth grows with it. Now here is where it becomes uncomfortable. Ownership comes with risk. It comes with uncertainty. There are no guarantees, and that is exactly why most people avoid it. They prefer predictable income. They prefer stability, and there is nothing wrong with that. But you cannot expect extraordinary results from ordinary choices. That is the trade-off. Now pause for a moment and really think about this. If you continue doing what you are doing today, will it create wealth or just maintain your current lifestyle? Because that question reveals everything. And most people already know the answer. They just do not act on it. Now here is another part of naval thinking that most people misunderstand. Specific knowledge. He believes that real wealth comes from knowledge that cannot be easily taught or replaced. Not generic skills. Not things everyone is doing, but something unique to you. Your interests, your strengths, your curiosity. Because when you combine what you are naturally good at with what the world needs, you create something rare, and rarity has value. That is what the market rewards. But finding that is not easy. It requires exploration. It requires trying different things. It requires patience. And most importantly, it requires ignoring what everyone else is doing. Because if you follow the crowd, you end up in crowded spaces, and crowded spaces lead to average results. Naval Ravikant emphasizes authenticity, being yourself, not because it sounds good, but because it is efficient. No one can compete with you at being you, and that becomes your advantage. Now here is where things get even more powerful. Judgment, because once you build specific knowledge and combine it with leverage, your decisions start to matter more than your effort. You do not need to work more. You need to think better. One good decision can outperform years of hard work, and that is something most people struggle to accept, because we are taught that effort equals reward. But in reality, outcomes are not always proportional to effort. They are proportional to the quality of decisions, and better decisions come from better thinking. Clear thinking, independent thinking, long-term thinking. Naval Ravikant constantly emphasizes playing long-term games with long-term people. That is not just advice. It is a strategy, because trust compounds, relationships compound, reputation compounds, and over time these intangible assets become incredibly valuable. But again, they require patience, they require consistency, and they require integrity. Now let us address something that often gets ignored: happiness. Because Naval does not separate wealth from well-being. He believes that the goal is not just to be rich, but to be free. Free from financial stress. Free from obligations you do not enjoy. Free to spend your time how you want. And that changes how you think about money, because instead of chasing more, you start optimizing for enough income, enough freedom, enough control over your time, and that balance is what most people miss. They chase endlessly without defining what they actually want, and that leads to burnout. Now here is the part you really need to hear. In 2026, the opportunities to apply this rule are bigger than ever. Technology has removed barriers. You do not need permission to create. You do not need a large team to start. You do not need massive capital. You need an idea. You need execution. And you need consistency. But even with all these advantages, most people will not act. Not because they cannot, but because it requires stepping into uncertainty. It requires leaving comfort. It requires building something that might not work immediately, and that is difficult. But here is the reality. The biggest risk today is not taking risk, because the world is changing fast. Jobs are evolving, industries are shifting, and relying only on traditional paths is becoming more dangerous. Naval Ravikant rule prepares you for that. It pushes you to build something of your own, something that grows with you, something that gives you control. Now let us bring this all together. Seeking wealth instead of money or status changes your priorities. Leverage allows you to scale. Ownership gives you upside. Specific knowledge makes you valuable. Judgment helps you make better decisions. And long-term thinking allows everything to compound. A way of thinking that, when applied consistently, leads to completely different outcomes. Now here is the final thought you need to sit with. Most people will hear this and do nothing. They will agree, they will feel motivated, and then they will go back to their routine. Because change is uncomfortable, and comfort is addictive. But a small group of people will do something different. They will start small. They will experiment. They will build. They will learn. And over time, those small actions will turn into something much bigger. So the real question is not whether this rule works. It does. The real question is whether you are willing to apply it when it is still uncomfortable, still uncertain, and still unclear. Because that is exactly when it matters most. And that is exactly where lives start to change.